Good morning. My name is Ken Arizon. I live in Vista, California. I want to start a series of baseball players, and it's going to be a certain number of episodes of my favorite players. Virtually all of them that I will be talking about in all these episodes are in the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to be talking about players who are presently playing or those players who have disputed stats regarding steroid use and so forth. I am going to talk about players in the Hall of Fame that are my favorites, and it's going to be a series of episodes. This is episode 1, and I'm going to start off with one of my favorite players of all time. One of my favorite. He's not the favorite, because I have about 5 who could be my favorite at any time. But I think it's fitting that I start off episode 1 with Babe Ruth. In all the polls that sports writers and even present day and old time players, whenever they ask who's the greatest baseball player of all time, in the poll rankings, Babe Ruth always comes out number 1. I agree. Who's the greatest baseball player of all time according to stats and achievements and ability? That can be debated. As far as the greatest baseball player of all time, according to a lot of people, and I'm one of them, is the Babe, the Sultan of SWAT, the Bambino, Babe Ruth. In my series of episodes, I'll keep it short. I'm not going to have very long videos, but each episode could be 15, 20 minutes. I want to focus on their achievements and their stats. If you want to know about their career from, their biography, where they born, how did they get to where they were, you can read a lot of baseball books on that, and I've done that. But I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to just focus on their career and their baseball achievements. I think you'll find this interesting. Okay, let's get started. As far as the Babe, he played from 1914 through 1935. That was his era when he played. He starts off in 1914, 19 years old, and he's a pitcher. So he appears in 4 games. He wins 2 and loses 1 and has an ERA of 3.91. Okay, so Babe Ruth starts off his career as a pitcher. Then the next year, 1915, he's 20 years old. He goes 18-8. Very good. His ERA, 2.44. Pretty good. 1916, he's playing for the Boston Red Sox. He goes 23-12 as a pitcher. This is Babe Ruth. 1917, he goes 24-13. 1918, 13-7. 1919, 9-5. 1920, wins 1 game, and 1921 wins 2 games. So for his career, he wins 94 games and loses 46 games. His career ERA, 2.28. This is Babe Ruth. So he's a pitcher. If he had continued his career as a pitcher, he was on track to win maybe 300 games, maybe 250 to 300 games if he just stuck with pitching. But we all know the story of the Babe. He doesn't stick with pitching because what happens? Well, turns out he has a very good bat. He can hit. So, 1914, his first year in the league, what does he do as far as with the bat? He appeared in 5 games in 1914. No homers. His first year as age 19 years old, doesn't hit any home runs. He does get 2 hits. His batting average for 1914 is 200. All right. What happens in 1915? He appears in 42 games, gets 29 hits, hits 4 home runs, 20 RBIs. Batting average 315. All right. Well, you see, 1914 and 1915, he's a pitcher, so he's not batting as much. 1916, appears in 67 games, gets 37 hits, hits 3 homers, 16 RBIs, bats 272. Okay, so these are the years that he's pitching. 1917, 52 games. Why? Because he's pitching. Gets 142 at bats, hits 2 homers. 1918, he's 23 years old, playing for the Boston Red Sox. Appears in 95 games. All right, gets some more at bats, 382 at bats. What happens? 11 homers, 61 RBIs, bats 300. 1919, things start to happen with the Babe. He's 24 years old. He appears in 130 games, 543 at bats, and hits 29 homers and has 113 RBIs. Something's happening with the Babe. He also bats 322. So people realize, hey, we don't want him pitching, we want him hitting. So in 1920, the Boston Red Sox trade Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees. And this is incredible. He plays in 142 games, 617 at bats. That means he's getting 4 or 5 at bats per game. Back then they played 154 games. He plays in 142 of them. What does he do? 450, like I said, 1920, 617 at bats. He hits 54 home runs and drives in 135 RBIs and bats 376. This is Babe Ruth, 25 years old, and has an incredible season. All right, the next year, 1921, he's 26 years old. He appears in 152 games, so he misses 2 games. 693 at bats. Whoa. What does he do? He hits 59 home runs and drives in 168 RBIs and bats 378. Incredible year. 1922, he's 27 years old, appears in 110 games, so he misses about 40 to 50 games. I don't know what happened that year. But 1922, 496 at bats. He hits 35 homers. Very good. 96 RBIs, bats 315. 1923, 152 games. So he misses 2 that year. 699 at bats. That season, he gets over 200 hits. Hits 41 homers, 130 RBIs, and bats 393. This is Babe Ruth, a slugger. That was his highest batting average, 393. 1924, he's 29 years old, appears in 153 games, misses 1 game. 681 at bats, 200 hits, 46 homers, and 124 RBIs, bats 378. This guy can hit. Not only does he slug homers and he has RBIs, but he bats 378. 1925, he's 30 years old. Playing for the Yankees, appears in 98 games. Maybe he was hurt. I think he had some problems on the field, but I'm not going to get into negative things about these ball players. I'm just going to focus on their stats. So in 1925, he's 30 years old, 98 games, short season, but he still manages to hit 25 homers and bat 290. So an off year for the Babe. 1926, 152 games. He comes back, misses only 2 games. What does he do in this season? 1926. 47 homers, 153 ribbies, and bats 372. Whew. 1927, one of his best years, could be the best year. 151 games, misses 3 games. 691 at bats. He hits 60 home runs and drives in 165 RBIs and bats 356. What a year. 60 home runs, 1927. He's 32 years old, so he's in his prime, really. He's figured it out. 1928, he plays the whole year, 154 games. He comes back and hits 54 more home runs, 146 RBIs. That's 323. 1929, he's 34. Misses 20 games, so he plays 135. 587 at bats, hits 46 homers, 154 RBIs. Bats 345. It's a very good batting average. 1930, he's 35 years old. 145 games. All right, so he missed about 9 games. Hits 49 homers, 153 RBIs, 358. 359. 1931, he's 36, 145 games. It's 46 homers, 162 RBIs. That's 373. Whew. 1932, he's 37, 133 games. So he misses about 22 games. It's 41 homers, 137 RBIs, 341 batting average. 1933, he's 38. Plays 137 games. Okay, so he missed about 17 games. It's 34 home runs, so he starts to tail off a little because he was in the 40s and 50s. Now he only hits 34 at age 38. 104 RBIs. That's 301. 1934, he's 39 years old. Plays 125 games. So he misses about 30 games. It's 22 home runs, 84. So he's starting to tail off. That's 288. And then his last year, he's 40 years old, 1935. 28 games. Here, he's not playing for the Yankees anymore. He's playing for the Boston Braves. What happens? 6 home runs. 1935, his last year. 12 RBIs. Batting average 181. Well, it's only because he only had 92 at-bats. So that was his worst year. Babe Ruth plays 22 years in the big leagues, okay? But do remember that the first 6 years he was a pitcher. So if you minus 22 minus 6, what is that? 16 years. So in a 16-year period, roughly, give or take, in 22 years, he played 2,503 games. But in a 16-year period is where he got most of his stats. And what does he do? 10,000 at-bats, but 2,000 of those at-bats were walks. So you could say 8,393 at-bats, legitimate at-bats. He scores 2,174 runs. He has 2,873 hits. Very good. 506 doubles, 136 triples, 714 home runs, which was a record until Hank Aaron broke it. 2,214 RBIs, which was a record until Hank Aaron broke that. Stolen bases, 123. 2,000 walks. Career batting average, 342. That's in the top 10 of all time. And he's a slugger. His slugging percentage is number one all time, 690. Okay? And then the last thing I will mention is how about some career achievements of the Babe? He's the first batter to hit 50 home runs in a season. He did that in 1920. He's the first batter to hit 60 homers in a season. He did that in 1927. First batter to hit 500 home runs. He won 7 World Series. 1923, he was the MVP of the league. 12 times he was the home run champion. 6 times he was the RBI champion. He won the batting title in 1924. What did he win the battle title in 1924? Let's see. 1924, he wins the batting title, batting .378. This is a home run hitter, and he wins the batting title. All right. So he's first all time in slugging. How about the Babe and his stats? One thing I also forgot to mention was his total bases. How many total bases did he have? 5,793 bases. So you can see that in episode 1, I'm going to focus on baseball players' stats and why I consider Babe Ruth to be the greatest baseball player of all time. Now, as far as the best hitter of all time, stay tuned for episode 2. Do you know who that is? I will tell you right now, it's Ty Cobb. So for this episode, episode 1, we covered Babe Ruth, his pitching and his batting, and what a career. All right, thanks for watching. I'm out.